You can't do something that's called Masha. So the more that you need, the bigger space you need to tell this one out.
Okay, it's Erev Shana, and the tzibur is getting ready for tomorrow for the Yom Adin, and we gathered together always to get chizuk. And this year it's a big schus for us to be able to hear from Rabbi Peled. Our chaver is going to give him Mitzvah Shem divrei chizuk to the olam. Mitzvah Shem will be nisayir, and thank you very much for coming and making time.
B'shus Moreinu v'Rabbeinu, B'shus Moira v'Rabboisai. One of the central themes of Rosh Hashanah is, of course, the Zechronos, the Malchios, the Shofros. And in learning about the Zechronos and going through the Tefillas, one would wonder, L'chayra, the last thing we want to do is talk about Zechronos. On Rosh Hashanah, the Yom Adin, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is paskening for Kol Chai, every person, miyichya, miyamus, l'chayr, the last thing you want to do is bring up that you remember everything, you don't forget anything I've done. Who needs that? L'chayr, that should be the last thing we want. L'chayr, we would talk about the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Rachum, V'chanun, Erech HaPayim, he's a Savlan, and he's patient, and he thinks about good things, and he has endless Rachmanus. I want to be talking about the fact that he doesn't forget anything I've done. I mean, I don't even remember everything I've done. He remembers every single thing. This is what we want to talk about. L'chayr is Tamua. And what bichlal is the pshat that we even talk about the word remembering Zechronos with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Forgetting, remembering. But how do you connect bichlal the idea? Hare, we say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu zarech kol hanishkachos ve'en shikcha lifnei chisech vaydecha. The word to remember indicates that there was a period of time that maybe you didn't realize, you didn't remember, and now you're remembering. What does it mean bichlal? In the Haftarah of Shabbos Shuvah, the Minig Ashkenaz is to bring psukim from Yoel. And in these psukim, Yoel Hanavi tells us, Kiru levavchem ve'al bigdeichem v'shuvu el Hashem Elokeichem, that you have to do kriya, tear kriya on your hearts. And if you tear kriya on your heart, says Rashi on that pasuk, Val titztarchu likroya bigdeichem achmas evil. If you tear your heart, you tear off arlas halev, and you open your heart to the Rebbeinu Shalom, then you won't need to do kriyas habgadim, machmas evil. This year, Rachmana litzlan, the amount of kriyas habgadim, l'chayr, the Navi is telling us we didn't have enough kriyas halevavos. But that's all the time. There's a specific for Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says, Kol shana shehi rasha b'tchilasa misasheres b'soifa. Any year that is rasha, reish shin hey, any year that is poor in the beginning, is misasheres, will become successful later on. Says Rashi, that means When Klal Yisrael in our tefillos on Rosh Hashanah, oisim atzmam rashin, make ourselves poor in our tefillos on Rosh Hashanah, then the year will be successful. So what does it mean practically that we make ourselves poor in our tefillos on Rosh Hashanah? And this is the skula, the schus, to be zoiche that the Shana should be misasheres besoifa. We make ourselves Russian. What do we do? How does that work? One of the central themes, as we know, is the Akedah. Now, years ago, someone handed me a tape, and it was a tape of Rav Shimshon Pinkus, Zechut Tzadik Livracha, and I was listening to this tape. They told me this is good, prepared for Rosh Hashanah. What did I know? Turned it on, and sure enough, it was Gevaldik. He asked an amazing question. He said, every year on Rosh Hashanah, we remind the Rebbeinu Shalom about the Akedah, a big schus that it should be for us. And he says, imagine if, most of us are married here, I see. Imagine if you, when you were engaged, you got flowers for your kala. Okay, it's pretty standard these days. And then on the first year anniversary, you don't buy flowers, you don't buy a gift. Rather, you remind her, remember those flowers from last year? Big, how much I spent on it. And then the next anniversary, again, my dear wife, 2 years ago, those flowers when we were engaged, you maybe even have a picture of them. We can reminisce the flowers, and every year, right? The marriage won't last too long if that's what you do every year. And here, every year, Rebbeinu Shalom, remember, Akedah, unbelievable. Okay, very nice, Akedah, good. That was thousands of years ago. That was him. And what are you? You Shmendrik. Where's your Akedah? What do you tell me about his Akedah from thousands of years ago? Every year you're going to remind me about those flowers from before you got married. How does that work? This is a Gevaldige question he asked. And when the question was finished, I had to go daven mincha. So I pressed stop. And I went to daven mincha. Came back from mincha. Was excited to hear the rest of the tape. And then I walked in to see a big horror. My two oldest kids, who were babies at the time, Baruch Hashem, they're both married now, to wonderful Bnei Torah. But at the time, they were sitting there on the floor, on the balatot, in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and the tape was all pulled out, and there was no part of it was still inside the plastic case. Right? It was all pulled out. And I sat there with all of my heart and soul trying to put it back in, and it's a geht nicht. So, for years I'm looking in all the Sfarim of Rav Pinkus where he asks this question and where he gives the answer. I can't say I read every single one of them, but I haven't found it yet. If anybody finds it, you'll be doing me a big chesed. But I'll call upon him. So over the years, we're trying to think what could be a possible answer. So obviously one of my favorite parts of the Musaf is where it talks about Noach. And in the Musaf we bring about the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers in the Zechronos. In the Zechronos talks about Noach. And the Pasuk says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered Noach b'chol hachaya b'chol behema asher itoy b'teva. And Rashi says, what is the Zechira that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had regarding Noach? Well, in connection to Noach, regarding the Chaya and Behema, the Torah is putting them together and saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered the Chaya Behema that were with Noach. Well, what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembering about the Chaya Behema? Says Rashi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is remembering the fact that they Shaloi Shimshu Bateva and Shaloi Yishchisu Darkam Kodem Hamabul, that these animals who were in the Teva were pure and they were not corrupt before the Mabul and not during the Mabul. The Ramban questions this. Because the Ramban says, Zchus for these animals. Animals are programmed that way. The animals that yeshchisu darkum, that's the chiddush. But the animals shaloi yeshchisu darkum, they're programmed that way. So this is what kind of a schus? Because remember, schus for the animals. So says Ramban. It means something else. It says Ramban. It means that Kosh Baruch Hu remembered that to begin with, he had some plan in creating the world. To begin with, he wanted. Ba'alma divera kir usei. He wanted to create the world. He wanted there should be people. He wanted there should be animals. And now the world is a big mess, so you have to press delete. But I don't want to press delete because I had a kavanah. I meant to do this. I meant to make a world with people and animals and the whole business. So therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered that that's what he wanted, and therefore saved them and ended the mabul and let them come out. Says the Ramban. That's what it means. HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembered Noach and the animals that were with him there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever it means, remembered, but it means HaKadosh Baruch Hu kept, like we say in the Gemara, L'taimei, kept consistent with what his original plan was, that there should be a Bria, and he kept the Bria going. So l'chayra, you could say the same thing by the Akedah. What happened by the Akedah? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Avraham Avinu, Tzadik Yisod Olam, Eved Hashem, to go and shecht his son that he's waited for 100 years, and he loves him, can't even imagine, and he tells him to shecht him, and the Avraham Avinu kavash es rachamav, like we say in the Musaf, and he was going to do it. He was holding the knife. He was mamish going to do it, and the Rebbeinu Shalom stops him. Why are you stopping me? I want to do it. I'm ready to do it. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, no, don't do it. Why? Because I don't want him to be dead. I want him to be alive. This is what I want. My kavanah to begin with is that there should be a world. There should be people. There should be an Am Yisrael. There should be a Netzach Netzachim and a Torah and forever and Olam Haba. So this whole thing, as we know, obviously the whole thing wasn't meant to be an actual shchita. It was meant to be just the Akedah, as we know. But the point is that what we're saying over here, one of the nekudas that we're saying by the Akedah, bringing it up every year again and again. Remember those flowers. The point isn't just remember those flowers. The point is, you HaKadosh Baruch Hu want us to live. You made a bria. And you want us to be. You don't want us to die. You want chafetz b'chaim. Melech chafetz b'chaim is you want us to live. Elamai, if we're Rishayim, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So you have to do tshuva, and we have to do our best to be in line with what the Rebbeinu Shalom's kavanah was to begin with. But be'etzem, we're saying to the Rebbeinu Shalom by bringing the Akedah, aside from the simple pshat, which is what we say, kavash rachmav and kein yichbishu rachamecha, that look what Abraham did, such as chus, but we're also mentioning, l'chayra, that you want us. By you stopping him from killing Yitzchak, it means you want us here, melech chafetz b'chaim. You stopped him. So you want us here, you want me here, I am bringing up, we, in our Musaf, are bringing up the fact that Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to live. And that's what we're saying. We're not bringing up the fact that Rebbeinu Shalom remembers every Aveira we did. We're bringing up the fact that Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to be alive. That's the matara, the target, the goal in bringing up the Akedah, bringing up Zechronos. And so what the Gemara says, Kol Shana Shehi Rasha B'Tchilasa, that Klal Yisrael, as Rashi explains, we make ourselves aniyim b'tfilasam. We're saying in the Musaf, and we're saying the whole time, Melech Chafetz B'Chaim, we are here not because we deserve it. We are here not because we have some schus ourselves. We're here ach v'rak because you want us here. To begin with, you wanted to make the world and have us here, and you keep us going for thousands and thousands of years, and you're soivel, and you're rachman, and you're erech hapayim, and you put up with all of our craziness and all of our distractions and everything else. And the anius could be said is that we're makir and we're proclaiming that we're here ach v'rak because you want us here. Ach v'rak because that's consistent with your plan to begin with your machshavat tchila. Lo b'schus atzmeinu, not our own schus, but you stopped him from killing Yitzchak because you wanted a Yitzchak, you wanted a Yaakov, you wanted an Am Yisrael, you wanted Olam Haba forever, Netzach Nitzachim. And that's what we're saying in the Chafetz B'Chaim, Melech Chafetz B'Chaim. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to live forever and to be here and to continue. And when we properly put things in perspective in our tefillas, that's how we're here. We're here because of Kuloi Rachamim and Kuloi Savlon. Lo yaltzid koiseinu anachnu apilim tchinoseinu lefanecha ki al rachamecha harabim. Yaakov Avinu katonti mikol hachasadim. Be'etzem, we don't deserve it. This is the anius that the Gemara was talking about. And when we properly see ourselves and recognize ourselves as aniyim, we don't have b'schus, what's schusim to come before Rebbeinu Shalom. We properly see ourselves as aniyim in this respect, then Be'ezra Hashem, we can ask the Rebbeinu Shalom to misasheres b'soifa, to give us a year that will be with great rachamim and with great chesed and great ava, with all the shefa and all the brachas and gilu shechina, that we should be able to lavedas Hashem be'emes u'be'yira mitoich rechava, without too many tzaras, with good health. Parnasa starts from this recognition of the anius, and Be'ezer Hashem misasheres b'soifa.
I heard what I think I say one time that the case Yitzchak was not a thing that happened one time in the past, but it's